It's me, Regina, and in this video I'm going to share my very first experience being an au pair, which is also as you can tell from the title, also my worst experience, most horrible experience, most awful experience I had. And now looking back and thinking, how in the world did I even try to be an au pair again and do it again after the experience like this. And the only thing I can think of is, which I did mention in one of my previous videos, that I had gotten the taste of living abroad and how different it was from what I knew my whole life up till then. And I liked that. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to experience it more. And I believe that that willingness to experience something new, to learn something new, different cultures, different languages, everything that came with it was strong enough inside me that I kept going after my first horrible experience. I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible, but also I want to make sure I include all the points that make this story what it's going to be, what it was in real life. And before I really get to the point of me going, me applying, me getting there, I just want to give a little background. This is not a fresh story like 1 year, 2 years ago. I was an au pair 15, something like that, years ago. My That was my first au pair experience. But I believe that the fact that it was that many years ago doesn't really mean that it's like an old thing, because I mean, there are different people around the world, and different people have different views, different ways how they raise family, and different characters, and that can never get old. I mean, there's no such thing as something. People's interactions and how they are, and so I hope that maybe this story can help someone, especially maybe if you are experiencing having a bad experience as an au pair, or just to know that you're not alone in that. Many people have been there too, and maybe give some inspiration to continue. Maybe you get some idea from this story of how to go about things, or maybe if you are just thinking about being an au pair, maybe it gives you kind of an idea to um, what could happen, and I hope it never happens to you. However, people are different, and I think that, just like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, now too, anything can happen. There's so many different stories and different experiences. And yeah, so um, that was first, that this is not like a fresh year or 2 years ago experience. Um, Now, to understand also better the story, and you'll see later why, I have to tell you that the country of my birth is Latvia. That's where I grew up, and it's, for those of you who may not know, it's a small, tiny country in northeastern Europe. And up until my teenage years, the country was part of Soviet Union, which meant communism, which meant everything was sort of closed. The idea of traveling wasn't even crossing people's minds. That wasn't something that was sort of allowed or common or typical to do. And when I first decided to go be an au pair, it was sort of a very beginning. The country had been about like 6 years, 7 years independent, so it was kind of very beginning of when borders started to open up, and these opportunities showed up to travel somewhere, to go somewhere, to do something. So that's where I'll leave it. um, and what else might be a bit of importance is that I was studying college to be an elementary school teacher, which meant I had the education or some education to work with kids. I've studied some psychology, and that at that fact, those times, played a big role in me being chosen by families, getting families' attention to have me potentially as their au pair. Also, I'm creative. I like do all kinds of creative stuff. I'm that's just my thing, and that also helped. And why I'm saying this, because back then, to be chosen from one of the former Soviet Union countries, um, a girl chosen to be an au pair from former Soviet Union countries. Mm, I was told quite a few times by the agencies in the future as well, when I did go to other countries, um, that it wasn't family's first choice, that they weren't as quick and fast to get somebody from those countries. So that's why I'm telling you this. So I had sort of I got bonus points with because of what I was studying. Now, I think that's all you need to know for now as a setup for the story. Now let's get into it. I chose to go to Sweden. I really wanted to go to United States, but you had to have a driver's license. It was a must. And I didn't have driver's license, and I didn't have money to get the driver's license. It did cost quite a bit there. Then and now to get a driver's license, it's not like in the United States, for example, where it's pretty cheap to do it to get it, like costs almost nothing. So I couldn't do it, and I decided, well, Sweden is the closest country to Latvia. I took some Swedish courses for a few months, so I kind of got basics for the language, and my English wasn't really that good, but it was good enough to kind of communicate basic things. I wouldn't certainly go into a deep philosophical conversations at that time in English, but it was okay. And so Sweden it was gonna be then. Pretty soon oh, one more important thing. At that time, it was only phones and written applications and emails. There was no Skype or any of these video call making options to communicate before. And we never spoke with the family before. It was only through the papers. So the only communication that happened before me going there was family talking to the agency, family sending application and me seeing the application and me hearing what the agency said, and me sending an application, me talking to the agency, and then family, like agency telling the family what um, anything they wanted, based on what me and agency had talked. The family that was interested in having me was family who had 5 children. They were all the whole family were speaking English and Swedish. So whether my Swedish was good or not was not a case, was not a deal breaker. And um, it's all on paper, and I think I actually kept the paperwork all for that, just because it was so significant. Um, so the family was had 5 children, starting from 1 years old till the oldest one was 10. They asked me, and at that time, 25 hours a week was the longest, the most that you could officially work in Sweden as an au pair. Had to have visa, and it was even in visa written 25 hours, no more than 25 hours of work, or up to 25 hours work. So the family said that in their application form that they need an au pair for those 25 hours only for the weekend. It said they're going to a weekend house. They have a housekeeper slash nanny for during the week, and during and they lived in Stockholm, and then for the weekend they were going to the country house by the beach on the water, and they needed someone to watch kids there, and that would be my 12 hours or 12 and a half one day and 12 and a half the other day. And I was happy too. I was happy about it. I thought, oh cool, I'll have like the whole week to myself. I can do whatever. I'll take language classes. I'll explore the city, the country. You know, sounded really exciting. And then also what they said, that I would not live in their house. They had like an apartment in Stockholm, downtown Stockholm. The application said that I would have my own apartment about 15 minutes walk away from their house, which I thought was amazing. I'm getting my own apartment there. I mean, how cool is that? And it's kind of like live in, but I'm not actually living in. I mean, that's like heavenly. And yeah, so basically that was it. And it sounded pretty cool, and I was very excited about it. We also had talk, like, the application said the payment, how much they're gonna pay, and that was, always seemed perfectly sorted out. Then I arrived in Sweden. um, I learned I learned this, or I was told right away that this is what was gonna happen. First, the apartment was, they had an office. They had their own business, and they had office 15 minutes walk away from their house. There was a bedroom next to the office that I was told nobody else in the office knows, that like what that room is there for, what's happening there. Only the both of them, the couple, the parents, knew, and I had to share it. That room had two beds, and like a dresser and a closet, and I had to share it with this other au pair, not au pair, housekeeper nanny. And the kitchen was the office kitchen there, and the idea was like, room and board. They just, told me to take from the main house whatever food I wanted from there and bring over to office apartment. And that other girl was from Philippines. She was very sweet, very sweet. But she listened to loud music all night long. She said she couldn't fall asleep if she didn't have music on. I can't sleep with a music on. Like in the room. Not on headphones. In the room. Like in the whole room. So just that's on a side note, but to give you an idea what it was. Then I was supposed to, and I was expected to go over first. I had to be out of that room before 8 a.m., before everybody came to the office, because how is it going to be that somebody's there sleeping while others are working right next door, and nobody should know that somebody's sleeping in that room. So even if I didn't have to work anywhere, I had to be out before 8 a.m. every morning, and I basically will do whatever, go wherever, but you can't be there. I was supposed to, my job was to be at the house at 4 p.m. in the afternoon and stay and work with kids, stay with kids, work whatever needs to be done till about 9 o'clock to help put some of them in bed. Like parents put some in bed, or the other nanny put some kids in bed, and I put like one or two of them in bed, or yeah. So that was the start, which, Monday through Friday from 4 to 9 p.m., that already makes those 25 hours, right? Then on Saturday morning, I would come over early to go to their country house. It was about a 2-hour drive. We went there, and so I wasn't allowed to stay in the main house again. There's like little cottages on their property, like small, just, like cabins. The bathroom that I was supposed to use or allowed to use was outdoor bathroom, and the shower was the shower on their boat. Which was, well, yeah, it was like on the deck. Like, not, you don't have any privacy there at all. It's like on the deck. You're sitting in the house, like you're sitting on, at the table on the balcony of your house, and you're watching down there, and there you can see the shower there. Very comfortable. I didn't take any showers there. But so that was kind of the idea. They wanted me on Sunday morning. Oh, Saturday evening they had a party. Friends coming over. I was supposed to set up the table and food. I wasn't asked to cook, but to set it all up, like plates and cups and glasses and everything. And then in the meantime, I was supposed to watch kids as well. Then when kids went to bed and they had this party going on, I thought, well, next morning I was supposed to wake up really, really early and kind of guess when the baby is going to wake up. The baby was sleeping in parents' bedroom. But they told me that I was supposed to go in the parents' bedroom around 6, that the baby girl was waking up somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. And I'm supposed to go in their bedroom and get the baby out of their bedroom so the baby doesn't wake them up, and get it out, and that's like when my day starts. Now, Saturday evening, we finished around 10 o'clock with all the setting up and just organizing for their party, and their friends already came. And I was quite exhausted because I had been up since we left the house at 8 o'clock. And I thought I have to be up really early, like 6 a.m. At least, or at latest. I went to bed. I woke up. Well, I was woken up in the middle of the night. This very angry host mom standing there, and the other nanny who had come to kind of show me what needs to be done there. And the host mom was furious. She was yelling at me, "Why are you sleeping? What do you think you are doing? You need to clean up. The guests just left. You were supposed to clean up after our party." I looked at the clock, it was 3 a.m. And I was completely confused. Like, what happened? Nobody told me that. And also, how does it have to do with children? And then she said, okay, we're going to talk in the morning. Just, go back to sleep and we're going to sort this out in the morning. And in the morning, I don't even remember now how it happened in the morning. Like, the baby was already out when I went there. The other nanny was working with the baby, so I didn't. And this was within my first week of being there. So I went there, and then to, like, from my little cabin to the main house, and that the host mom was up already, and she was so furious, and she was like, how dare you didn't do this, and how dare you went to sleep, and we needed your help, and you were not really helpful at all. And I tried to say to her, wait a minute, I mean, 3 a.m. and it has nothing to do with children. And and I started to say something, and she was not having it. That's like not your. That's part of your job. Oh, and I also mentioned about the hours, and she was like, "Huh?" Like that meant nothing to them. And and then the dad came, and we started like, and he was furious as well. So they were just all onto me. We then the kids started to run around and needed some entertainment or so, and then they said, okay, we are going to continue this conversation once we get back to Stockholm in the evening. So in the evening, the conversation continued, and they said, don't know like if it's going to work out or it's not going to work out. And I said again, I had like, the whole day to now think of things to say to them. And I did say, I did bring up again that that's not in my job description. It's not the hours. I mean, I worked that week 60 hours. I counted 60 hours. I was expected to work 60 hours and on all that. And then the dad said the phrase that I will never, ever, ever, for as long as I live in this lifetime, forget. He said, Regina, you come from a former Soviet Union country. Do you think you have any rights? Oh. Yeah, that was my first experience in being an au pair. I stayed in that family for like 3 weeks. I was desperate to experience, like, I had gotten that feeling of living in the other country, and within the first week, I started to go to classes, Swedish classes, and I've met some people there, and I heard good stories about the au pair experience, and I was hopeful, like maybe it would work or could work, or maybe there is some hope for something, and but there wasn't, and I was talking to the agency about it, and well, it turned out this was pretty crappy agency because they said, Janie, you are kind of on your own because as much as we believe you and understand that this is a horrible situation, we can't help you. We can't help you. If this doesn't work, you come back, you apply again. And I was terrified because it cost money to apply and I didn't have it. And to reapply again. And I thought it was not fair. It was not right. And yeah. Then the guy, we did agree after like about 3 weeks, well, 2 weeks, and that I'm going to go back to Latvia. Agency wasn't gonna help, and my Swedish wasn't good enough to see, everything what was going on, like newspapers, any ads to or something like that. And the guy said, the family, like the host dad, he said, no, Gina, we got you a ticket, and I from Sweden to Latvia, you take ferry. You can fly, of course, too, but at that time, like, ferry was like the most common way to go between Sweden and Latvia. It's only it's right. They're both on Baltic Sea. So he said, we got you a ticket, but we got you the cheapest one on the deck or whatever it was called. Like, not in a cabin, but like you just get a chair, a whole bunch of chairs next to each other, and you just get a chair because we thought you need to learn a lesson. You don't have any rights. He said it again, not in the sense of former Soviet Union country, but just said you don't have rights. And and yeah, and so you can think about, like, um, about this experience and how good you would have had it, according to him. And so yeah, that was my first experience. Here you have it. In case you're wondering what happened after that, and did I ever go back to Sweden? And I mean, I did say I continued, so that's not news, but I did go back to Sweden. There was something I didn't tell because it didn't have to kind of do directly with this story, but now I'm gonna share that on my way to Sweden, my very first trip to Sweden, I was in that cabin with one other person who was like an older lady. She was probably in her 60s, 70s, and she heard what I was gonna do in Sweden. And she said, "You know what, Regina? I know somebody who is Latvian who lives in Sweden, has lived there her whole life, and she's a priest in a church, and she has, like, she organizes these Latvian gatherings once a week, and very active in bringing together all people from Latvia, whether they their ancestors are from Latvia, or whether they came from Latvia and are living now here. So I'll give you her phone number. This is her name, and this is her phone number. And so in case you need anything, any help, then you can call her. And I'm not a religious person. I'm not a Christian. I don't go to church. So I was very skeptical about the whole thing, but I took the number and took her name. And in that last week, when I already knew that I was gonna go back to Latvia, I contacted her and I did tell her my story and what happened. And she said she was gonna look around and see, like, if she said she was involved in is with some other, like, au pair agency, and sometimes they get, private, like, families asking, like, if she knows anybody who is willing to come and be an au pair in the families. And she said she's gonna have me in mind, and I gave her my email address and my Latvian phone number, and I ended up, and she ended, like, a few months later. It took like 2 months, 2.5 months, and I did get an email from her and a phone call about a family who was interested, and I went back, and that worked. That worked better. I didn't stay the whole year. Like, 1 year is kind of like the idea of, like, what you commit as an au pair, or at least at that time was. I didn't stay there the whole year, but the experience was definitely much better than the first one, and so that's how it went from there on. But yeah, let me know what you think. Or any questions or anything, or share your experiences, your horrible, awful experiences. But yeah, this is mine, and I'll see you in the next video. If you decide to continue watch my future videos, subscribe and comment, and